Welcome back to the Stan Simpson Show. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. We're talking about the union situation, the budget, and is there wiggle room? Christine Stewart, is there $2 billion gap? They're talking back and forth. Layoff notices are out. Is there room to deal here?
I think that Malloy has backed himself into a corner a little bit, and he said $2 billion in concessions. That is a big number.
Over 2 years, though, right?
Over 2 years, but that is still a big number. Even, pundits on the right and the left seem to agree that the number is completely unrealistic. So when you have the right and the left agreeing on something, it's unusual.
But what do you do if he's marched around the state saying, I'm not going to raise taxes anymore? Let's say we want to cut a deal with you guys, but if you were at how many of those town meetings, and how many times did he say, I'm not going to do it anymore, right?
He continues to say it.
Yeah. So what does he do? It kind of makes for a hard negotiating point, it seems like, right?
Well, let's take a look at what the people are saying. Back to Green's blog, a couple of comments, pro and con on this.
Always
Let's start with
blog. I like that.
Husky fan. Yeah, you love that, right? We have no choice. The layoffs are absolutely necessary if the unions will not agree to meaningful concessions. That allows our state to get out of our hole. So your thoughts on that it has to happen. It's too dire a situation. The unions have got to end. Yes, you've had a good deal. Yes, we know you don't want to give back for your union, but you've got no choice here. Times have changed.
Well, I think that the important thing for everyone to remember is that the members of our unions said yes to stepping up and being part of a comprehensive solution 2 years ago. They would have in 2003 if the then governor had given them time to actually sit down and talk, but he decided no. Instead, let's go layoffs and illegal retirements. 20 years ago in 1992 with then Governor Weicker, we were able to reach an agreement. The bottom line is that the members of our unions know that they're part of the broader economy. They know they have to step up.
What have you agreed to now? What have you said, yes, we'll take right now?
Well, what we've been doing for the last several months, Stan, is observing a mutual blackout rule with the administration and not talking about the specifics. Beyond what we had said last year when we talked to then candidate Malloy about ways in which we can save money, improve the public services that the members of our unions provide, and assure that we do reduce those redundancies. We do find those cost wasters that...
Give me one example with some fat redundancy.
One in particular is the overuse of private consultants by a number of state agencies to perform services that could be done much more cost effectively by state public service workers. And you
getting benefits.
Let's challenge that for a second now, right? Sure. Now, you can have the guy who's a consultant, the guy who's the state employee getting benefits. Why not go with a consultant and get the services and not have the benefits?
And then pay the profit to that consultant company so you fatten the wallet of the CEO who runs the company. They include a guaranteed profit margin in order to even bid for these particular contracts. They want to make sure that they make money for themselves and for their shareholders if they're publicly traded companies.
Isn't that inherently part of the problem? Because I think the average taxpayer is going to say, if I have a choice of if I'm the state government and the choice of having a consultant doing the same job as a paid employee, at this point of the crisis, I'm going to lean toward the consultant and cut those benefits. You guys categorically, philosophically disagree with that. Isn't that at the heart of all this stuff?
Well, a big problem, Stan. It's not so much a disagreement over the ideology. It's just the practical dollars and cents. I mean, take bridge inspections, which last year we forced the DOT, the Department of Transportation, to reveal was costing twice as much to contract out to private consultants. So we're talking about a vital public safety service here. We're talking about inspections of highway and railroad bridges. Why would we spend twice as much for private consultants when we could have inspectors who work for the Department of Transportation who are also accountable to taxpayers because they're working for a public agency when you've got the agency throwing money out at these private consultants?
We can go on the whole show with this topic here. Let's look at Dan Malloy, what he had to say about overall where things stand, the governor himself.
I'm panicked in some senses. I don't want to do this. I made it clear. No other governor has tried to go the direction that I've gone, and I'm hopeful that we're going to reach an agreement.
Have there been good faith negotiations here overall? What's the sense, all three of you?
I'm wondering if, in the end, maybe the unions don't mind losing 10% of the workers, because in that case, 9 out of 10 workers keep all of their benefits. So maybe that's a 90%. That's pretty good, right? Maybe you don't really care if you lose 10% of your workers.
Of course we care, and I think that the individual union members care, too, about not only the real human experience that their coworkers are going to go through, but certainly just the practical workloads that are left for those who remain. That happened in 2003 when John Rowland laid off 3,000 workers. That was a major impact that was felt by all of the state's workforce, and a lot of those positions haven't been refilled since then. In fact, they've been filled by much more expensive private consultants, frankly.
If jobs are cut, right, plan B, if they do not cut jobs, here's what has to happen. Here's sort of plan B. If they decide to keep jobs, here's the impact. Here's the plan B. You see here on the full screen. And I have that backwards. If indeed they do cut, here's how the breakdown will be. So Department of Education gets decimated, almost 1,500 jobs there, right? Board of Regents, DOC, UConn, Transportation. But basically, you're wiping out education. This guy came in as the education governor.
But
Your
most
thoughts
of
on
those
this?
jobs are the teachers in the vocational technical school system.
Still 1,500 teaching jobs. That's a lot of educational jobs.
Those schools aren't going to be eliminated. That's like saying I'm going to eliminate varsity football. You're the superintendent saying that.
Still bodies, though. That's a lot of bodies.
Yeah, but that'll be picked up. They're not going to give up on vocational tech schools.
It's a framework.
Yeah.
It's not exactly, I mean, what he put out is a work in progress, and there are cuts on there. There actually aren't cuts on there that actually could end up being cuts.
Mm-hmm. So we don't know what's going to go on, really. It's still fluid.
Exactly, and there could be more layoffs.
All right, so end of the day. Prediction. We tape Wednesday, we drop online Thursday, we air Saturday on TV. Prediction.
I've already said no layoffs. That they're going to reach a deal.
We're going to reach a mutual agreement. We're going to start talking about rebuilding the economy.
Christine.
I'm not making a prediction.
That's wise.
I think we should deal, too. I think, at the end of the day, I think a deal will be met. Anyways, you guys did a great job. Have you back again, right? So find out what goes on. Thanks again. When we return, folks, career consulting coach John Brubaker will talk to us about the nervously employed, those folks who feel particularly vulnerable for a layoff and what they can do to protect themselves. Remember, catch the show 24/7 at ctnow.com/stand. Don't go away.